I love coaching, but it's not what I want to do. It's not where I see myself in a year, 2 years' time. I knew that I wanted something that would run without me being there at 6 a.m, opening the doors, closing at 9 p.m. So that was always my vision.
This week we're joined by Rory Harcourt, owner of Tribe Gym. We showcase how Rory has taken his business from working all the hours on the gym floor to a bigger location, having a full-time team, removing himself completely from the gym floor.
Our last advert we did, this is in notoriously a quiet period, July, August. We had 497, we had 28 sales closed.
So 497 times 28. So yeah, so that's 14k cash in the bank over. It was a pretty good summer.
Yeah.
What were some past wrong turns you think you've made?
I think
We hope you enjoyed the episode. Rory, welcome to the FMA podcast. Thank you for coming down. Now, just to tee this off, when we first met, you were in a small location, working kind of all the hours on the coaching floor, revenue around 13,000. Fast forward to now, new, large location, full team in place, about 32k monthly recurring revenue every single month. And again, you're off the gym floor and you've got a lot more freedom to do more things that you want to do. So we're going to run through that entire process step by step of where you were and the steps that you've taken to be able to get to where you are now, which is a pretty good spot. And of course, you know, we've helped with the marketing, but there's so much more else that goes into delivering a quality product, building a team, and all of those things that we're going to dive into. So I think what would be really good to do is just get a bit of an intro and kind of background on the current state of the business. So name of the business, the model, team, and price points. That'd be a really good place to start.
So the business is Tribe Gym. The team, we have 3 full-time staff. And then the business model is small group personal training. We run a 1 to 8.
And it wasn't always Tribe, right? It was, what was it before, before there?
So before Tribe, it was actually TR Fitness. And that came from me and a friend. We set up a business, a personal training business, and obviously original with Tom and Rory being the TR. And then we also had fitness.
Which is the classic name for fitness businesses. When you start off, you use your name or the first initials or anything like that. So we've seen that a number of times before. But the reason I wanted to bring that up and I thought was really interesting is before we started recording, you were talking about like your intentions of where you wanted to be really early on, like back in the day. So kind of like take me back to that starting phase and what the vision and the intention was, because I think that's like the best place to start off with.
Yeah, so for me, it was always, I love coaching, love training. It's obviously sport was always what I grew up loving and wanted to do something in that industry. And then as I was doing more and more training, there was obviously, but not become soulless, but became a bit repetitive. And so for me, there was always the end goal and the end product, but I wanted to stay within that industry. So you look around and the step is always to own a gym or have something that is bigger than just you as one person effectively. And then so for me, it was a case of I knew that I wanted something that would run without me being there at 6 a.m, opening the doors, closing at 9 p.m. So that was always my vision, and always the vision was to get to that point.
And I think as well, like when you're, you know, loving creating impact and helping people get fitter and all the other benefits that come along with that, if it's just you, right, on the gym floor, or that's like a really big part of your job, you're actually limiting the impact you can create because you're only one person, and there's, you know, you limit that off, right, when you don't have a good team in place that you can share that ethos through.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Yeah, the more people you bring through the door, the more people you can help. And one person is always going to be less than having multiple people. Also, the group training allows that to even go even further from that.
And it's also like, yeah, as you said, like you actually do enjoy coaching people, and it's not like I hate coaching people, I want to be off the gym floor and make it a thing about me. It's more of creating a business that can last, right? And ultimately, like if you're an essential cog in the business and then you leave or go on holiday or, you know, something were to happen and then you can't deliver the service, it's not really a business, right? You just kind of own the job you have. So that was, just to clarify, that was from day dot. The vision was, I want to build something that runs without me, essentially.
Yeah. So from the start, that was literally where I wanted to get to. So it was always a case of, obviously they said training. I wanted to create something that I can choose whether I want to train or not train. That was the end goal for me. It was like, if I want to train a session or want to coach people, then I can do so. But I don't need to. I'm not a necessity in the business. This business can grow without me being there. That was the goal. So I choose my destiny, basically.
Yeah. And what would you say like the first steps are towards getting to that point? So you're training lots of people, let's say 1-to-1. I believe maybe doing some group stuff potentially. What was like the first thing that you had to do to build up towards that? But then before we answer that, just the reason I wanted to start there is that like the vision you have will compel all your actions moving forward, right? So because you at the start knew what the business would look like and how you wanted to run and what your life wanted to look like, because of that, all of your actions gear towards that. Whereas a lot of business owners, they're just doing busy work every single day, not really sure where they're going, right? So do you think it's important to really have that clarity of vision at the start?
Massively. I think you definitely need a North Star, something that you aspire to be or want to be, whether that's people around you that you see their life that they lead and you may want to go that way. I think without having something to work towards, you're just on the rat race, you're just on the same wheel, just turn over every day. So it doesn't have to be set in stone and crystal clear, because you may need to change and divert. And I've done many times changed on what direction I've taken the business. I'm still doing that in certain ways. But there has to be some sort of like end goal when you feel that that's satisfied and it's ticked that box. And
to go back to that initial question, what were like let's say the initial steps of like, right, the name of the business is this, but I want, because you were saying everyone knew it as Rory's Gym, or we'll come to Rory's Gym, let's go to Rory's Gym. That's what it was kind of known at in the local community. So what were those first steps of taking before, so you can get to a position where it's not all about you, essentially?
Yes, that was in the area. It was when I obviously started as a PT. It was basically then there was good word of mouth around and people knew me as a trainer in the area. So therefore, when I opened a gym, everyone would then recommend it as go to Rory's Gym, Rory's Gym, Rory's Gym. And there is obviously a background story to that we may cover later on. But when we were initially TR Fitness, then when we changed direction and we went into the Tribe Gym, it had to have some sort of relevance to a brand, not necessarily one person. So we steered away from the direction of having our initials above the door and create something that could be more of a community-based thing. But there was also still, obviously TR is still in Tribe, so there was still the affiliation from that. So there was a growth in, we are still there, but we're not there. So we're present, but not present in that sense. And then that's when Tribe was kind of born, and it just felt right, and it just sit nice on the way it was. So that was the initial start to getting me away, was the name, and then the way that we portrayed things, and it was for me to kind of set my beliefs into the staff underneath me. So the business and everything about it and the model and the way that it run was still how I would run it. So then when people come in, there was no difference, no change from them. I just wasn't necessarily there as much.
And who was your first hire in the business?
So my first hire in the business was a kid called Carl. He was there for 3 years, but he's actually now left. He's not there anymore. But he was the first full-time employee that I had. And he, from his first job all the way through for 3 years, and in the end he was a very good coach at the end. And it was, he helped me a lot through that transition.
And so that was his role. It was just coaching, essentially, taking those hours off you. And if you were to like go back, people always have different opinions on who's the best first hire, but do you think that was the best first hire for you, or in terms of that position? Not the person, but coaching? Or some people will go, an admin person or a coach. What would you say, like if you can go back in time, are you quite happy with that decision, or would you do anything different?
I was very happy with the hire. I think the hire was great. In terms of the position, I've always had, because another staff member of mine, she's still with me currently, is Kate, who was from the get-go, which actually initially was a client of mine. So I used to train her, and then she was a PT back in the day and basically wanted to get back into training. So then she folded into the business and became part of the Tribe when we first started. But her job again was members relation as well as training. So in terms of importance, obviously it's really important to nurture the members that you currently have. so that they feel seen and feel cared for. So in terms of the coaching side of things, it's really, really important. The product is important, which Carl delivered and done. And by the end of it, he was writing the programs and doing all the programming. So he went from nothing to delivering and running everything and coaching it.
And something that I thought you said was very interesting is that you don't want to be the face of it, but you want to have your beliefs instilled. So although you're not there in person, your overall ethos is there, right? Which is essentially like creating something scalable because you've placed a system into the business that's from your beliefs, but you're not there to have to deliver. And that's when you actually are a business owner, right? When you take those things you do and delegate them, whether it's through systems or other people, to be able to deliver. So how did you do that essentially in terms of whether it's the first hire of a team? What's the process from actually getting that, let's say, belief system and that ethos into those team members?
I think initially, you've always got to be, from the get-go, it's kind of letting them know exactly what each member wants and needs. And then from that, the ability to, they will make mistakes, but it's not, telling them off on those mistakes. It's guiding them into how they should deliver those sorts of mistakes that they've made. And I found that for most most staff members that have come in, it's the work ethic that I want them to be able to show. So it's showing their ability and their resilience, because coaching is difficult. It's hard. So it's like when they're coaching from 6 a.m. and then doing the lates as well, it's still delivering the same session. So their willingness to get up and do it. So for me, it was one of the biggest things is just their resilience. And it's like, can you deliver at 6 a.m. when you can deliver at 8 p.m.? Is that the same standard if you're there all day? Because it has to be. So for me, it was like, even from coaching from one-to-ones, it was like those long days, just because someone comes later in the day doesn't mean their money's not as worth as the person at 6 a.m. Okay. So for me, it was always making sure that their standard stays set throughout the day. And if it's not, why isn't it staying at that standard? And that's one of the biggest things that I found with coaching, to make sure that they just stay on the level they need to all the time. And that is kind of what we kind of set as our main standard.
And so the attributes are like work ethic, resilience. But something that you didn't mention there was like they need to come in really skilled, like or high skilled coaches. And that's just an assumption of me, but is that the case for you? Like, do they need to come in skilled or not? Or is that not as important as those other two factors?
I think it depends on what team you have currently set in place. I think you couldn't launch a gym with not having a skilled individual around there. But I think the ones you mentioned about the work ethic, the resilience, and the willingness to learn, you can make someone a great coach if you've got the time and energy to put into it. Whether you can teach someone to have manners and be polite and do certain things with, and just deal and have conversation with different multiple generations of people is hard. And so for me, it's that conversation side of things. If they can hold that conversation, they can engage a room, but they may not know how to coach. We can definitely learn those things, but I couldn't put them on their own with no great coaches around them. So I think it's kind of a yes and a no to your answer, but I wouldn't necessarily say I would hire someone with no experience. If someone's coming from in my place that I am at right now, if you've got the ability to bring in a junior coach and you have two great senior coaches who are doing a lot of the coaching and they can learn from CPD and stuff, where you would train the coaches and they can work under them and not necessarily take a session themselves for a long period of time, then I don't think it's necessarily has to be, it depends on what you're hiring.
Yeah. So one of the attributes is teachable in terms of the actual skill set. The other one is probably, if you're a difficult person to deal with or not very good with other people, that's going to be very hard to actually teach, right? So that's probably like the main attribute that you want. And the skill bit, obviously you want them to have some level, but if they're not like the best coach in the world, you can go, we can work on that and develop that, but you're actually a really good person that we're dealing with there. And so the first hire was there to help you out. And was it just that one hire in the smaller location?
Yeah, so it was. So Carl came in initially. Like I said, Kate was there as well, who helped the workload, but session times were a bit more sporadic on what she'd done. But Carl he came in to relieve me out of doing so many hours, so I could have some time to look at almost like map out the the journey of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do with this business. Like I said to you before, that vision I had. Obviously, it's very hard to navigate that when you're doing 6 a.m. to 9 at night, and then you've got to do everything else going on in your life and working 6 days, 7 days a week. So that when he came in and leave that, then he allowed me to sit back, have some time, and then see the direction of the business.
Yeah, so that first hire frees up your energy to do activities to work on the business, essentially. So it's important that obviously you get that person in. Important to, I imagine that training the first, not I imagine, I know, but training the first staff member is less structured and systematized than it is with a brand new person that you'd get today, right? I imagine, like, if we were to look at the systems now and before, there's probably nothing then, and there is now.
100%, yeah. So when Carl first came in, it was new to me. I'd obviously had freelance coaches in, but effectively they are, they come in, they help you out, and they do bits, and there was no set rules as such. So then when Carl came in, it was kind of a bit of a, okay, I've now got someone who is asking me to do things, and what I want to do, I then feel guilty for making them do work, but they're your staff members. And so it was all a bit, at the start, apart for me, it was like, I just want him to be a good coach. I want him to learn from me, shadow me, and then deliver what I thought was a good session in terms of my views and my values and what I wanted the clients to get out of it. And which he took to really well, and he delivered those great. So, but again, I think it came to a point where, for me as an individual, when there was a point when, not that because of how it started with Carl coming in, I wasn't at the level I'm at now. So my delivery and my decision making wasn't the clarity that it has now. So I feel when we'd come to the end, when he left in May this year, yeah, I felt like it was a good thing for him to kind of go and spread his wings and try his own thing. But at the same sense, I'm a different person than I was back then. So now the coaches coming through will be a smoother transition. I'll be seen more as I am a boss and the business owner, and this is where I want to go, and less of a friend working with someone and having that connection that probably wasn't very professional at the front in that sense. Whereas now it is very functional, and they come in, this is what we do, we run through these are SOPs, this is how we do it, and let's go, and then it works. And
something you just raised is very interesting, like how your current team perceive you is probably different to how your first team member did, because it's a small business, right? You're in a people business, and you have to get on with everyone, right? But there was it sounded like more of like a friendship level there with the first employee, and like obviously that's nice, right? But is there, let's say, you have your pros, and is there cons to that as well within a working relationship in a business, when you've got the professional, like, let's say, line, and then the friendship line, and sometimes those can cross over, right?
Yeah, totally. I think you kind of, because I was still working as a coach, I think it became, we had to have energy off each other, because we were in a room delivering 2 sessions, and you have to have a bit of a vibe between you two. So it can't always be a case of, I'm the boss, I'm the hierarchy, you listen to what I'm saying. He needs to have a voice, he needs to have a delivery. He's doing a session, I'm doing a session, he's doing a session. So that became difficult, and was always hard on that front, because there is times when he would be like, oh, am I going to make the decision because Rory's here? Rory's going to make the decision. So, and likewise, it was difficult for me. It was probably difficult for him, because fundamentally, I'll make the decision. I pull rank. I will pull rank. But that's where I think in the session on the floor, I didn't want him to feel that way. So I felt less of it, not that I wasn't the boss, but it was like, we're both delivering a session, so I want us to be on an even playing field. So I would say it had its pros and also had its cons, because then when it came to making them do things outside of coaching hours, you felt a bit more, like, well, I need to do this and he needs to do, like, so you felt a bit like, rather than giving them jobs and tasks to do.
And something you mentioned as well, that I want to ask before we kind of go back to, let's say, like the journey of the growth, is you mentioned that this stubborn was with you for 3 years, so like a good period of time, and then they moved on to do something else, and that was a good thing, because when it comes to staff in gyms, I hear so many gym owners go, oh, you can't get the right staff these days. They suddenly left. They took my clients. They did this. They did that wrong. And I always, when people tell me that, there's always kind of 2 sides to every story, right? So was that gym owner the best person to them versus, but you never know exactly. But staff moving on doesn't have to be a bad thing, and it's a natural thing, and it's an inevitable thing. Like, people come and go from businesses all the time. And how you manage that process will really manage, because if you have a shaky exit, that can affect the product and the service and the clients and the retention. If you have a good exit, it can be seamless and have minimal impact at all, right? So you mentioned it was a good thing. Why was it a good thing in your eyes? And did you have a good transition of that period as well? Because some also may think that, our first staff member's leaving, this is going to be terrible for the business. And that's a pretty bad place for a gym to be, right? To think that if this staff member leaves, the business is going to take a significant hit, because that's a real threat right there. And it kind of comes back to, there's a face of the business that is relied on for success rather than the brand and the ethos and the belief. And I believe you want to get to a place where your business, it doesn't matter who the coach is, you love the brand and the vision and the mission of it.
That comes back to my North Star and what I said to you about the start. I wanted to build something that was bigger than me. And it was a case of, if you're doing something in the right way, that one coach isn't going to affect your business. I'm trying to build something that me, the owner who started it, who had all these clients, who they still know the gym as Rory's Gym. It's still those original ones, the ones, I've been training for 15 years, are still there. I'm building something that I can disappear. If I can disappear and they can stay, then one coach has been there for 3 years and disappears, people aren't going to leave. That nucleus that you build and the ethos and the community and the things around it, I've built something to take me out. So a coach shouldn't make a difference. There's no reason why a coach is going to have a bigger pulling power than me. I've started the business. So my vision was that, like I said to you, I was creating something that nobody could affect I can't even affect it. If I can step out of it and disappear and that thing still runs in 5 years' time, I've done my job, not being there. So with the coach going, the reason I thought it was a good thing is because I took it as a chance to evolve. And the start of this year was my mission to fully step away. And it was something that I've been always wanting to do and been really raring to make that decision, but it was just making sure I'd made it at the right time. And when I said to you, Carl gave me notice and he was like, I'm leaving. It was a chance for me to, give him a good send off. He's been amazing. Everyone loved him. He's done a great job. But that was a chance for me to rebuild and say, now that he's going, I'm going to go as well. I'm going to double exit out this gym. And it's like, we're going to rebuild the team. I'm going to get one senior coach who's going to be a great coach. And then I'm going to bring in another one underneath him. And then we're going to promote him up to full time. So from losing one coach and me, I brought in 3 coaches in one hit. It was like a complete, ripped it all up and put it all in. And it was like, but it was done. Pulled the Band-Aid, 3 people in, they staggered a month's different. So the senior coach came in, worked for me for a month. Then I came out, the other coach came in, so another coach came in, and then worked with him for a month. And then obviously Kate was there and got to do more hours now. So we're now into 3 people running the gym. And it also evolved a little bit from changing the model slightly as well. That allowed me to do that. So we've gone from 1 to 6, went to 1 to 8. That was purely on a staffing, the way that it would work, because we were running 3 sessions every hour. So we had 18 people in the gym.
So you made some big changes that could, in another scenario or another person, this could have all gone belly up for someone, as in I set out the business, my head coach left, and a bunch of clients. I mean, we've all heard that story before, but was there any negative impact or shuffle, or did it actually go pretty good?
It went really good, but only because I'd made the decision, and it was a case of, it was for the greater good. And I knew I didn't want to do, I love coaching and I do at times like coaching, but it's not what I want to do. It's not where I see myself in a year, 2 years time. So for me, it was a case of whether it goes belly up, I have to make the decision now. It's now, this is the perfect time. When I teed it up and mapped everything out, I was like, there's no better time than once the play sheet's been ripped up, you might as well keep ripping it. And it was like, it's going to go down, I'm going to have to rebuild it. So it was a case of me just kind of going all in and just double downing on everything. And that was kind of what I thought was the main, and yeah, it's paid off to be the right decision.
Do you think that, again, everyone's heard of that person has a gym, they have a staff member, they leave, they take half the clients. Do you think that is but you can never say to everyone's individual situations, right? There's always different circumstances. But do you think in some cases or many cases that is a result of the business owner not instilling enough of, let's say, the beliefs and the ethos into the community, in the business, to strengthen it there? Because if people are if a huge portion of clients are leaving because of one person, that means they're loyal to the person rather than loyal to the values of the business. So do you think it's ever a case that maybe the business owner has failed to use that time off the gym floor to really enforce the culture of the business, and they're focused on other things maybe?
You will get exceptions to the rules, where you will get some coaches that are, have a great personality and they go the extra mile outside of gym time, maybe to invest in certain people.
Yeah.
Which could probably have an impact and a dent on it. But what I would say is that I think the way that it's kind of like we've driven massive on the community side of things, and that everything based, like we even with like events outside of the gym, and it's like that can't be recreated in a one-to-one environment, because obviously one-to-one training is very personal. It really is. And it's a weird relationship. I've always said it, how more about your client's whole family and their life story and their backstory more than you know about your best mate, which is mental. But it is, because you see them 3-4 times a week for an hour. It's a long time to have a connection.
My wife said that to me actually yesterday, because she's finishing up with a client for 5 years because she's not training in London anymore, basically. But she said, I see him more than I see some of my best friends.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I'm really sad to leave because I've got this relationship with someone.
100%. Yeah. And the weirdest thing about it is like a judgment-free zone as well. So you open up to them more than you would to your friends, because you feel your friends would judge you. So it's a crazy relationship. But that kind of takes me to that idea of why when I changed from one-to-one to the group environment, I had the same thing where when I first set up the one-to-one stuff, the gym was all a one-to-one studio. We had freelance clients, and it was that same thing. Okay, we can't give him too many clients because if he leaves, he's going to take them all with us. We've drummed in this business, we're going to lose it. And that was always my mind. It was like, how do we stop that? How do we resist this? How do we change this? We can't. Do we give them contracts? They're not worth the paper they're written on, because it's all freelance. You can't book people, and you can't. It's someone's decision. I can go and choose where I want to shop, where I want to train. So that part of, let's build something that people don't need that personality, that person to buy into. They're buying into who's around them, who they train with, who they enjoy training with. And the reality is, I've said this many times, I get it all the time. It's, well, how am I going to like who I train with? How am I going to train with? And I go, you don't have to take my word for it, but I can guarantee, one, where you live is going to create a community of people who are like-minded to you anyway within that facility. The timings that you train is going to dictate their personality and what they want to do, i.e. the ones that come at 6 a.m. that have to go into the city for work, they're going to come because it's the only time they can come. So they're going to have the same drive and the same thing. So you're always going to gravitate towards your demographic, towards your person, your people. And it's funny, we have right now we've got one client's getting married. She's just turned like 41, 42 of his sort of age. And I've been training her for a long, long time, actually, fair, but she's now obviously in the group facility. Someone's come into the group training for the last 4 years, and she's now maid of honor to that person. Never knew each other before the gym. Wow. She's getting married, and she's met her maid of honor in the gym.
That's amazing.
And that sums it up.
So what you're saying is like in the past, clients make connection to the trainer, whereas what you've built is clients make connections to clients, and that's literally the premise of community. When you're able to enable your client base together to share the same values and become friends and have such a bond that they're the maid of honor, that any coach that leaves, they're not going to tear up. They don't want to shake up their community there. So that's actually what you've just said there is an incredible answer of like how to maintain that. And I think also is tomorrow you're coming back to the office to take part in our mastermind event, like a small group of people, and we're going to do a workout at Madison's as well. Something there is that I don't care which trainer I ever train with, because I'm happy with them all, because they all deliver the same standard and level when it's the same experience, right? And I imagine that's the same with your gym, right? It doesn't really matter who the person is because it has the same ethos and standard that you've set in the gym.
That's 100% right. It's like everything comes from the top down, right? And it's if you, as long as the team's organised, the team knows what they're delivering. I don't want to put training down in a bracket, but there's only so much you can do within training. The element from the coach is more about necessarily being a cheerleader or a hype man into certain areas that some people can do better than others. But as long as they've been, as a team, you've worked out what the program is, how to deliver it. You go for every member, working out the pros and the cons of what they can and can't do, where they're at along their journey. You can't really fail because it's all been out there for you and it's been planned for you and you know what you're doing. Apart from adapting in the situation through injuries and whatever else it may be, some people may be better than others at it. But the reality is everyone we're set and it's already all set in motion the week before. So we know what's coming, we know who's in, and we know how to adapt to that if needs to be adapted. And we do that as a team. So like I said to you, small businesses are great because anything gone wrong can be changed instantly,
very quickly. And we focus on team, which I think is and team and culture is what I'd say, which is hugely important in terms of that being able to step out of the business element there. But just to kind of rewind back to you're in the single site, you've got the smaller site, you've got the is Kieran, what was his name?
Carl. Carl was there.
Carl, yeah. You've got your first team member in the gym. What are you spending your time on to kind of move towards this goal? Like now you've freed up, so like you've got your staff member, I can now work on the business. What are you now using that time to push the business forward?
The first thing for me was obviously getting more members. I now have the capacity to effectively double my members because I am still working. So, but Carl comes in, he can relieve some of the load, so I can have some time to do that. So then my next step is, what is it I want to attract and who do I want to attract? Which again I've made wrong turns, right turns, and until I've probably even this year has changed for me. Like it's forever evolving as far as you will know, and what people see in front of them is changing massively, and what's for offer is changing massively.
What are some past wrong turns you think you've made, and what are some more innovations that you've made recently? But let's start with the kind of past wrong turns.
I think I've focused too much on what I want to deliver. So therefore, what I want to deliver because I like it, everyone likes it, isn't true. I think I've also, if it makes it more exciting for me, but likewise, that was, I think, because when you're doing those long hours and you're coaching a lot, you need some excitement. You want to coach, you're here to coach. So you don't want the mundane, boring stuff and just doing the horizontal, vertical pull, push, those sort of things that, that everybody needs to do, but not everybody's at your level and thinking that they need to learn to do a power snatch and cleans, all these sort of side of things. So you're over complicating things to make your brain work, which I think then is just hitting a completely wrong market than what actually I set out to do.
And so would you market the workouts and how different it was and how unique the workouts were at all? Or
yeah, so you'd put them up and you put the up on the board and you'd take a picture, put it on socials, be like, look how cool we are, we can do this, and we can and no one even understand it. You'd have gibberish on the board and people are like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like even coming in, people were going, you put the acronyms of and people are like, well, what's a AKBS or this? And I'm like, I don't know, whatever it is. And it's like, they're just confused.
It might do the opposite of attracting people, which is like, I have no idea what they're doing right now. This does not meet me at my level, essentially.
And the market now is different in terms of the average, I don't say average person, but just the normal working, in your 40s to 60 market, they're the fittest they've ever been and the fittest they want to be. And they're trying to get fitter than they've been even in their 20s. And that's I think where I was looking 6-7 years ago actually is now probably coming where it should be now.
But more people want to do resistance training.
Correct.
There as well. That's less of a scary thing, I think, in terms of, and that's what we're seeing as well, like marketing campaigns where you talk about, so we have it's called like Get Strong Now program. That works really, really well, but it didn't work. It's actually got better over time. When we first released it, I was like, this isn't working very well. And I'm actually seeing it just get better and better with the same message. So it's people's perception around that. Now, people still obviously want to look better, move better, feel better, but they are starting to, like, weightlifting isn't a scary thing where it used to be beforehand. More, and I think people actually are starting to understand more so that if you lift weights and have muscle mass, you live longer. I mean, it's that's a big motivational factor for people as well, to actually want to take action rather than just like getting in better shape as well.
Yeah, and that's totally, I think that's been, people's eyes going to open up to, actually it's good for you rather than I don't want to get bulky, the old school. And I feel there's now that shift again now where I'm saying, like I said, this year's definitely shifted for me when I feel that there's, I say performance in the loosest terms, but people now actually want to like perform in what they see, kind of like measure how they're improving. Like you can always get on the scales and you always do the, go on the embodies and find out you've increased muscle, drop body fat, the things, but it's like, that doesn't really satisfy people's hunger now. And it's funny when I used to, like, you look back, it used to be maybe some of the trainers would compete in these events and whatever else. These like fitness events now are like, they're almost like barometers to see that I'm getting fitter and I'm going to be fitter and I'm going to be this 60-year-old who's going to be nailing Hyroxes and I think they now need something to target for. And I thought, so that's, everything's just kind of like shifted up a level and it's changed the direction again in where we focus.
And is that the members that you're actively working with are like, I want more and more, or are they coming in with a different reason and then wanting more later on down the line, or what is it you're seeing?
I'm seeing my members now currently, all of them are loving having, because a lot of them, essentially where our demographic is currently, a lot of them are kind of like, they were all like ex-team sports or that sort of side of things. And it's like that world disappears in your 30s when life takes over and families and work becomes relentless. And it's like, you can't give up your Tuesdays, your Thursdays and your Saturdays to team sport. It's just physically impossible. And you can't really risk getting injured for work and whatever else. So there was always this space for this. And it's like, people don't suddenly lose their competitive edge and their hunger and their drive. It's because there's nothing for them to do and reach for that. It's always in, we're humans at the end of the day. We come from that sort of instinct to like hunt and gather. That's what we were. So it's always going to be there. And it's just how we can, again, get that appetite back. And I feel that's where it is going. And you'll find these people that go, I never thought I'd be doing this or competing in this. And they're like, I love it. Like, I will do every other week, I'll do a fitness event. It's like, that's mental to think that someone who has no reason to do it, they're not going to compete at the top, not going to break any records, but they're competing against themselves or against their mate at work or whoever it is. And they have that, they create their own level and their own target, which is amazing. I find it great.
A quick break from the main podcast to let you know. Now, Rory is speaking about all of the success he's had in his gym, doubling his monthly recurring revenue, getting off the gym floor, and all the other amazing things he's been able to achieve. But he didn't do it alone. FMA, yes, helped with the marketing to get the leads, to get the sales, but he also got help from one of our partners called Fitness Business Profits. Now, if you listen to the podcast, you may know of Dan Aguilera. If not, search that episode and look it up. It is a golden episode, but they have massively helped Rory as well with his front end offer, with his packaging, his pricing, and with their help, he's increased his conversion rate from 50% of a front end sale to a back end to 90%. And they've played a massive role in helping grow their revenue, get him off the gym floor, systematize the business, and so much more. So if you're looking for help with the business, with the foundations, with the product, with the service, with the delivery, you should definitely speak to Fitness Business Profits. Go ahead and visit their website at fitnessbusinessprofits.com, or bare minimum, check out the episode with Dan Aguilera to hear what he has to say. I guarantee he will make a positive impact on your business. Right, back to the episode. And do you find that you have like members that they probably never thought they could do a Hyrox, let's say, before coming into the gym, and now they've got that hunger that you're speaking to, so that they come in like, I don't know if I could ever do that, and now they're like really keen for Hyrox, basically?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's mental to see. Like, people I've had like probably, I reckon, 20 members to me go, I never thought I'd do this, and they're now doing. We took a big team to battle of cancer, and it was like everyone was like, went to the pub after to celebrate, and everyone was always like, it just felt they were on a high. I've been on a high for like 3 days. They were saying after, like just the sense of like doing something out of your comfort zone and how that releases that adrenaline and releases that like just endorphins of feeling good, which is amazing. And I said it's a nice thing to see. That's another great thing to see as a business owner, that you're like affecting people mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, Bath Cancer is actually a great event as well, because there's no pressure when you go there, but you get to do the work and have a bit of a teamwork and collaboration. Very, very good event. I enjoyed it very much when I did it. What I think with because you do a lot of Hyrox stuff, right?
Yeah.
But do you like the majority of people probably come in for a different reason and then do a Hyrox? And what's your kind of medium price point on a monthly basis?
So our price is really simple now. We have a one-off price, and it's $297.
Okay, nice.
And we just sit it as a monthly membership. That gives you 3 sessions in the week to join in, and then you can bolt on. You can pay extras if you want to do more than 3 times a week.
And so this is my take on Hyrox. So I think Hyrox is a great event. I've done it multiple times. Great community builder, has many benefits. But with this model of that price point, if you advertise yourself to come in for Hyrox and that's the thing you're selling, you then put yourself in the competing bracket with Gym Group, who also are Hyrox affiliated and do classes. So if they were to come exclusively for Hyrox, they're quite a low value customer in comparison to where else they can get that class. However, you bring them in for you speak to their needs and where they're at, you bring them in, they pay $297, and they come in and they're part of this community, right? So the value proposition is what you've built and the community and everything that we've it's actually quite funny because everything we've spoken about, it all ties back to this like community and culture that you've built, because that's where the retention sticks. That's where the value proposition sticks. And then on top of that, they then chase a Hyrox and then they smash Hyroxes. So it's a great community thing for your members to strive towards. I personally think at this price point, it's not the thing you should lead to enter in because it's quite a low value. Do you agree with that?
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And I use it as a supplement to add on to what we already have.
Yeah.
But Hyrox for me, it's not necessarily sustainable. In terms of, I don't mean it itself, Hyrox could be here for as long as I don't know, but I'm saying in terms of a business model, it's a great additive to what you deliver. But the reality is what we're trying to build and we want to build is that if you create something that people love and they enjoy, strength training, everything around it, it's not I'm going to come for 6 months, get my bikini body what it used to be, and then stop training and then come back 6 months later. It's a forever process. Yeah. So what we're building is something that actually, if not everyone has to fit my model, not everyone has to enjoy what I offer. We and like I said to you, I say to everyone who walks through my door, there is so many branches in fitness, and you will always love things, not like things, and that's fine. You've got to choose your thing, and whatever you choose that is your thing, that has to be sustainable forever. Like the reality is our bodies are living for longer. We're going on we need to be healthier for longer. You know, we're having kids potentially later. Therefore, you know, we have to be fitter for longer. Then it's like now with like families and grandparents, they've got to be fitter than ever because they've got to look after these kids. So, and there's no pressure on my side, on my end. Whenever someone comes in, it's like, I will do my up duty to make you love this experience and to make it beneficial for you, but it may just not work. That's not that I've done something wrong. I know I've done everything to service you. If it's not for you, you don't have to feel guilty. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Go find something that's for you. And that's where Hyrox sits in for me. It's that case of right now it's great because everyone's talking about it. It's a buzzword effectively in the fitness community. And like I mentioned earlier, it gives us a barometer to work on and improve. People need that. People love that. If you improve your time by 2 minutes every year on year, then your training's working. You're doing something right. You're becoming fitter as you get older, which is great. That's what we want.
And essentially, like with this particular type of model, higher price, your business and core product should be amazing. And then you can add Hyrox, which is a great value add onto it. It shouldn't be your business does great Hyrox sessions and that's the main thing, because that's probably quite a threat to be in terms of, again, you can get Hyrox classes for a very cheap price in many other areas. So to have that as your sole value proposition, it doesn't tend to get lots of high-paying clients for a long period of time because they're valuing what you do versus what they do, and they see it as the same thing because it's the same name. Whereas you can be unique in terms of helping that individual, and there's nothing more valuable than that process. And so, just to kind of go back to that marketing side, because you said you reverted in the wrong ways and you kind of reverted into different things and seeing what it is. So you got your staff member, you had more time to work on the business. When did we meet? Was that around that time?
Yeah, so 2021 maybe.
And is that when you had the staff member and you were ready to kind of grow?
Yeah, so we I think it was around, I think Carl was there when you came in, and that was because it was January. We came in January. We done our 90-day mental build, and it was amazing. We got like 44 people through the door, and
that was like signed up into
the initial trial, and then from that I think something like 28 stayed or something.
And because your goal was to move into this bigger site, right?
Correct.
And you knew that from the start. So again, like vision was already there of what you were doing, why you were doing it. How big was the first site, and how big is the site?
So the initial thing was obviously the first site, when we took that was meant to be a personal training business. So it was all one-to-one. So the way that it worked was 3 trainers, 3 clients, separate pods, job done. Then obviously we hadn't really touched on it, but I obviously set up with my business partner initially. And then in COVID, the second COVID kind of shutdown, he decided that it wasn't for him and he wanted to go a separate way. So I then bought him out of the business, and then it was solely on me. So that was kind of the initial. So from having a facility that was not really set for group training, I had a premises that I had a lease to, and I had another year and a half, I think, on it. But I obviously couldn't do 6 a.m. till 10 at night, one-to-one, stacked through doing his clients and my clients. So then that's why I changed the group facility. But this place wasn't. We made it work and made do for it, but it was kind of like an L shape with like 2 set things, and you had to like peek around the corner, make sure they were doing their squats or whatever they may have been doing, whilst running 6 people in a gym. So that site itself was just under 1,000 square meters.
So you changed the model, and the building wasn't really fit for purpose.
No,
it was workable.
The building was good size. It was just had walls here, walls everywhere, and it was kind of like you had to shout around to bend your voice around corners. But look, it worked, and it went through the whole transition, and we decided to. I told all my members that I was going to group training. This is what's going to work from the 1st of October. This is what we're doing. And that was it. And then the rest is history on that front. Then in the April the following year, so 6 months later, I had the opportunity to move into a bigger site. And it was only a kilometre down the road. So there was no issue through, and there was parking outside, which made life, obviously we're on the high street. We moved a little bit further out of the high street, and we had parking outside, and it was in like a kind of like a farm, but like a posh farm, not like a rustic tractors driving around. It was all made of like a nice area. And then, so that size is now 1,600, so almost double in terms of things, but it was a blank canvas. It was a big open, 20-foot ceiling. It was huge, whether I could just make it perfect for what I needed to make for.
How much did you, if you don't mind me asking, invest into the business, invest into the new site?
So the new site was about 75 in, but bearing in mind it was empty. So this is even to put toilets in, put a little like coffee shop thing at the side as well.
So it
all
was
equipment.
Literally,
it was nothing there. There was running water coming through. That was it, and some lights. So it had lights. So apart from that, that was it, and then that was in January that we signed. I signed that, and then we opened in April. So at that point, I've been a year with you guys at FMA, and I think we'd then done the relaunch in that time. And from the relaunch, our campaign, again, another 30, 40 members came in through that to sign up.
And so was that the pre-launch marketing? So you sold people in. So, and this is a really important point. So the number one is that the business was generating more revenue before you could move in, because so you had these extra people that were paying you every month, and that gives some extra cash flow to put into the business. Did you get funding elsewhere as well, or was it all through kind of cash reserves? Or?
It was just through cash reserves that I'd done it,
which I think is pretty impressive, to be fair, that you've been able to actually. The success of the first business, obviously everything you've done before, but then obviously the extra members, that was able to invest into the bigger site and then also the marketing campaign, because many people will seek investment elsewhere and then they've got to pay someone back, but you didn't have to pay anyone back essentially. No. It was all, and that's the amazing thing about like investing into client acquisition, right? Because like that, initial investment you made led to all of that extra revenue that led to you to be able to make a bigger investment into the gym, and then you can invest more into it, and it all just kind of snowballs and gets bigger and bigger from that, right? It's quite cool to think about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was, as I say, it kind of helped that it was kind of like a pick up what I had, drop it in a bigger site, and now I can open up to more people.
Yeah, because you've already got, it's not, you're not on a standing start.
I'm getting it.
There's not a huge amount of pressure. You're going to come in with revenue.
We were walking. And, and then the money kind of was already still coming in. So when we opened our doors, it was like, I think we shut on the Friday in the other gym, had the weekend off and opened on the Monday, had a soft launch.
You soft launch with the current members.
Correct.
Just to do the experience.
Correct.
And when doing that soft launch, because some people might be thinking about moving to a bigger location, what is it you're stress testing in that period? Is it just running some sessions? Or
running sessions. For me, it was just making sure that people could how it was going to flow coming in, because one of the biggest barriers, actually is a barrier, is that in the new site, it's because of where it is, it's gated, electronic gate, and it's still the bane of my life. So this gate,
when a member comes after,
they have to wait, and then we call. But the way we combated this is that we've basically been we've just made our sessions so efficient, and it's one thing that was always like, when people come in and you always have people waiting and lingering. And we had this kind of like, I had a little meeting with the team, and I was like, this needs to change. We need to make people are on the clock quite a lot of times, and we need to make it as efficient as possible. This gate's also going to be a burden to us. How can we combat that? And it was kind of a case of, the sessions will start as soon as it ticks. If it ticks on the hour, that next session is starting regardless. If you're not here, you're not here. It's your fault. This is what we're doing. You booked in for that 7 o'clock session, you turn up at 7. And from that, the gate, obviously, we open it. And then we know that if we open the gate at 7 o'clock, the last time we open it, if you're not here, then that's your fault. So we kind of use it as a kind of like, you have to be disciplined. You have to be on time. If you're not on time, you ain't coming in.
The gate's going to be closed.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, but it brought this thing where people were like, they were flying to come in. They were coming early. They were rolling out. We put one coach would go and stretch the new people to warm them up, whilst the other coaches stretched off the other session. It was like, and it just worked in this motion where it then became a really slick, smooth business. And actually, from one change in the business, that gate no longer is an issue, because it doesn't matter. Whatever time it is going to open on the hour, and then if you're in it, you're in it. If you're not in it, you're not in it. And so the only way that you'd let us know is if you call us or message us, say, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, and that's fine. But it was kind of like, it kind of like took it out, but also just created a new dynamic that made something even more efficient.
Well, it's funny, actually. The psychology is when you set a boundary, people respond better and are more and comply more with the terms of engagement. Because if you were just like, if you're late, don't worry, just like, you know what I mean? Like, people would take the mickey, basically. But when you actually set these ground rules, people,
and it's physical. It was a physical barrier.
Yeah. It was actually a physical one. But when you almost metaphorically create pushback in that way, people are better clients. It sounds funny because sometimes when you bend over backwards, they actually, you're the cheapest, you're the most flexible, you're all of this. You actually get the worst quality clients. And when you charge more and you have rules in place and standards, then you actually get better people that come through the door, which I think is awesome. So that was one element, just the actual gate, which is a bit of a unique. But then is it also just running through a program session to make sure, because obviously they all know how to run a session, but it's in the new space, just testing everything out.
100%. So I think, like I said to you, from the first one being how you control the room was very different. This one was all open, so it was you had all eyes on you the whole time, and it was your delivery and the way you've done it, and we had new bits of kit, knew the way it would lay out, the way we'd run the block. We could run it now how we want to run it. That was the beauty of it, right? In the old place, it was kind of we had to do separate little blocks, and we'd spin them around and work with 2 different coaches doing different sections, just trying to make it work, a strength section and a more cardio. This was now big open floor. We had the 4 racks with all the cable pulley, everything ready to go. And then we could put people into the pods they needed to be in. So everything just was visible. And as a coach, it was you could see everything. You could stand in positions and critique all the exercises, and see who needs the help, who doesn't need the help. And it became much easier to juggle things. So for me, it was a case of, before testing the product was part of it. That week it was also just trialing things. We put out forms to current members and being now we have this. What would you like to see? What do you want to get out of it? What didn't you like about the old place? What do you want to bring in here? We've got room now. We can run multiple sessions going on at once rather than one session. So all of these things became possible, and it was just a case of just making sure that we didn't just, like I said to you, we had the people that we had 40 odd people signed up ready to come into the new premises from the marketing, from the launch. But they were all starting not from that week, they were starting the following week. So it was a case of the sessions are suddenly going to, they will be busier because you've got 40 people sitting waiting to come in.
Yeah.
And they're going to be as keen as mustard from day one. Obviously, they slowly dwindle down. It depends on how they stay and they engage, and some would buy it for the hype, right? So I think for us, literally, that was literally the case. And actually, it was just to not overbear the coaches a little bit as well.
Yeah, get them settled with it.
Yeah.
And it's important with the pre-launch of the gym, you want to make sure you're getting people signed up before you actually open, especially on a stand-in start, but less pressure because you've got people coming through.
Correct.
But obviously you want to get as much, cash into the business so you're break even or profitable from day dot, and then you can build upon that, right? Because the worst thing is having all this, the worst situation is to open a gym and just be in a loss and no trajectory for going there, right? But fortunately, you didn't have that position, but you needed to take there as well. What was your sales process like for them? Because obviously you're moving into a new location. There might have not been anything to show. But also, what is the sales process now? So leads come in, website, Meta, whatever it is. Like, what does that process look like for you?
So the process now that we have is, one of the mistakes I made, probably the business and the market that we target is I spent a lot of time doing the 28-day upfront offer. Yeah. And it was a cheaper point that people could buy into. And for me, it was like you got a lot of response from it because it was 149 or something, whatever, I can't remember what it was, back in 149 it was. And you get people that can just pay 149 and they come in 28 days, but then they don't really see the results, don't really get much out of it. And they kind of come and go quite a lot. And for me, that was, I think I held on for that for too long. It was a bad thing, and you just saw it as a sale. But actually, those upfront offers for what we do, it's nice getting some money in and nailing a sale because it makes you feel there's an ego hit and you feel confident, you feel good about what you're delivering. But the reality was, they're just buying a low end price. So then we changed to the 6 week, which I've now been doing for probably just over a year, I reckon now. And it was the best thing I ever did. So the whole process of this, the price point, which is $497. So it's actually more expensive than what you'd be getting in our monthly. And psychologically, it's like, obviously we spend more time with them in terms of the nurturing them and the process, and they get an initial consultation of one-to-one as well. So that's added on as well. So in theory, you could probably say they're getting a good cost on that because it's obviously having a trainer's time for an hour and a half is valuable, right? But the whole mindset of that and that shift has been like the conversion rate from that 6 weeks, once they pay that money, we're like 90% of them coming into the business then from that. It's ridiculous because they've already committed.
Yeah.
They're already all in.
And so do you find a better buy-in from clients for 6 weeks paying $497 versus the 28-day $147?
100%. Like we were probably under 50% from the $147, whereas the buy-in from the 6 weeks, so it's about 90%. It's mental. It's unbelievable but the process that we have set in place now with when the leads come in, they get the phone call, they get the initial chat that we have with one of the team, calls them up, finds out what they're looking for, what it is they want to get out of it. Obviously, the initial form has questions, they answer. We have a little bit of data about them as well. So we can kind of navigate them into what we want them to talk about effectively. And we kind of know their pain points a little bit, but we find a little bit deeper on that front. And then it's kind of like getting them in to convert them. So then once they're signed up to the 6 weeks.
And so you put them in for a consultation to sign them up?
Yes, we call them and then we'll sign them up over the phone.
Oh, cool. So all one call close.
100%.
Nice,
one
good.
Call close.
I'm very glad you said that because I want everyone to hear this. 497, one call close over the phone. I still have conversations with people today where they're like, I don't know if I can sell over the phone. It's £200 or it's this, it's that. But
so our last advert we did, Live Well one. They always land quite well, those two. This is in notoriously a quiet period, July, August. Yeah. We had 497. We had 28 sales closed.
Wow. That is insane. That is very. I was going to try to figure out what the front end, because obviously the front end cost is nearly it is triple of what it was before. Pretty much. Yeah. So 497 times 28. So that's that's 14K cash in the bank. It was a pretty good summer.
Yeah.
And then you said 90% of those converted.
Yeah.
So then you've got 28%. So
I think that was 20. We had 24 from that come in. Yeah. 24.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. So 24 stay on £300.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very successful marketing campaign there as well. And there's a few things to touch on there. One is that you can sell that over the phone. And just to repeat that, you can sell £500 over the phone. People get, I think people, did you always used to sell over the phone? Or so that was a process when you came into FMA, you learned how to do that. And maybe it's good that you started on 145s, right? Rather than go straight in, because you've got the confidence up. But as you, and this is something I always think people should do, is like you gauge your sales process, you gauge the demand, and then if you're selling easily, just up the price, and then you'll be able to see if you're getting resistance or pushback. And it sounds like volume in terms of sales hasn't actually decreased. Well, not in that period of time anyway.
It really depends on, like,
it probably has filtered out the wrong people, actually, if that makes sense.
Correct. Yeah. So we've that's why I said even this year we've shifted. Like my marketing drive shifted. That the one obviously that summer campaign was amazing. It landed really well. But I think,
you're probably not gunning for like 20 front end sales a month either.
No,
it sounds like a less is more approach in terms of the clientele, in terms of everything.
100%. So for me, it's like those almost, I suppose, I wouldn't say quarterly, but effectively could be quarterly. At that sort of level is brilliant, and it's like you just go all in. Again, going all in. It was like, I think we just the ads we hadn't done. It was obviously we done a lot of phone calls for that. It was a lot. I know that we were quieter anyway. We had members of staff away and most of clients away over the summer period. So it was like, what else are we going to do if we haven't got? If we've got quiet, we've got one coach on. What's this coach doing? We're just going to call. We're just going to hammer these people, and it's like all these old members. We're going to hammer these people. Like, even though you're on a summer holiday, doesn't mean you can't pick up a phone and answer and potentially rebuy into something. So it was kind of a case of what's dead time, what can we do? That once a lead, always a lead, right? And unless they kind of message about saying, don't message me again or call me.
Yeah, of course. yeah. If someone says leave me alone, then obviously leave them alone.
Give them a day next week.
Yeah. Or I'm not I'm not interested in anything like that. But again, like all that work, like how many times will you call a lead?
So that's kind of like now it was a bit of a, I say we had a spreadsheet, a bit whimmed and a bit random kind of thing, but now it's kind of like all into the CRM system now, and they keep getting nurtured and we get told when to call them again. So it's kind of within that it, again, it depends on whether they pick up, whether they answer, whether they're busy or whatever else it is. Then we drag them into different kind of like leads effectively. So typically that person, unless we have a good conversation, will be 21 days, will still be contacted for 21 days.
Yeah.
So whether that goes from a text message, a WhatsApp, then they get a phone call, no answer, then they get a phone call again. But we get it, it's already put into a flow system, and they get emails through as well. And then it's kind of like, so for us, it's like each coach, once they've been assigned the lead, it will then email them to say, you need to call thingy. So they're getting told what to do. They've been directed by this system. So it's all been built in, and that also is built into the, once we do get them, we sign them up, they get put into a 6-week process as well.
And are your team signing people up as well?
So the team do some. I've actually got one of my best mates back from school. He was in tech sales, was what he was in. He's the one that got most of his sales in August.
Amazing.
And he's decided to travel the world basically, and he basically wanted some extra cash and revenue. So I was like, look, I've got some phone calls coming. I can't do all of myself. If you do some closes, you can have some money.
That's so good.
And he's brilliant at what he does. He's brilliant, and he's been, when you're doing, B2B, he said money, it's a bit different from selling to person like clients or based, but he was, doing big sums of money. You're talking 6 figures over the phone, and these are like, so he's like, yeah, fine, run, no problem, you can do it. And again, different people have different confidence in how they deliver it and how you do it. But generally speaking, I think if you believe in the products you're delivering, and like as everyone will tell you, they've signed up for a reason. And it may be too expensive for some people. It may be the cost of it, but that doesn't mean that you have to like lower yourself to that. And I think I've stuck by that. I know at the start it's very easy. It's one of the mistakes. I would say that sometimes people are always going to want a deal, and I think at the start you want just keep winning and keep getting something. But actually, sometimes when you give out those little things, that's just going to not, it's like you mentioned it earlier and touched on it, like lowering your standards and lowering your what you want to kind of build for the long picture. All it's going to do is just cause a negative impact long term. And I think that those 10 cheap memberships that you may offer, it's just going to cause conflict somewhere along the line. And I think you're better off just never lowering yourself to that and just hanging deep. And I say to you, just pick the phone up and do those calls. It will make a difference. And I think you can get them, and don't be disheartened by a no. And because you do have other days when I've just sat there and called 90 people and just got nothing.
It's the consistency that matters, right? Because you can have a day where you make, let's say, 90 dials and you get nothing, and you're like, well, this is rubbish. But then actually the next day you'll have 4 people pick up, 3 people buy, and then the next day maybe not. So, but it's like over a period of time you have a great amount of sales. But if you just look at, it's a little bit, you can have one bad training session, right? But if you're consistent over time, you then get results. And it's the same with that sales system. It's about having that work ethic, the standards, and being consistent with it. And you mentioned the 6 weeks. Do you hold their hand a lot more versus the 28-day?
Not that we hold their hands, we're still in the weeks process, but I would just say it gives them time to. The first couple of weeks is always, it's building some sort of rapport, some sort of relationship. And people, everyone's different, but like most people who we focus on, not that they haven't got any confidence, but that's one of the reasons they come. And it's like they want to rebuild themselves and re-find who they were in their 20s, who they were in their 30s. So for me, it's like we need to ignite that. What's inside them? Why are you here? And why do you, like, what can we do to get you back to that person ASAP, basically? So for me, it's a case of,
do you think, and is that a lot of the, sorry to interject, is that a lot of the conversations you have? It's people 40s, 50s, and they go, when I was 20 or 30, I was really energetic, and now I just feel like a sack of potatoes, basically. But it sounds like you go quite deep with them in that conversation about where they are now and where they want to go.
100%, like deeper the better. I think, like, in the end of the day, our job is to help them, and I think if you ask yourself, and I've asked myself, there's times when I feel myself getting into a rut and getting out of it, and there's certain things that, I actually having someone to hold me accountable and actually hold my hand in the process can actually help. And I think when we call them, it is all about, like, you let them give you the answer. They'll talk themselves into it. They really will. And it's like, you've just got to give them a couple of little, like, openings where they can actually express themselves. Some won't, and if they don't, then they're probably not ready for the process. And that rather than digging too deep, you can dig deep and you can go there and you'll find. But most people after 10, 15, 20 minutes will go deep with you, because, like I was saying to you, we had that conversation earlier with personal training, how it's really, you go deep in those conversations and you know everything about them. You know more than probably their family and their best friends know about them. And it's the same over the phone. They're talking to a stranger. But on our front, we're no judgment. We're here to listen to you. We're offering a helping hand. You take it or don't take it. And it's kind of like a case of, like, when I'm talking to them, I'm very empathetic in terms of the way that not that I know all their problems that they've had, but I've seen it. I've been there, I've done it. I've been here 15, 20 years in this industry, in this space. And I've, helped a lot of people in that space. So for me, it's a case of, I will let them open up. I'll let them talk to me. And then I will use examples of how I've had people in this situation. And you're not alone. Everyone thinks they're this unicorn. You ain't. Like, you're the same. It's the same as everyone it's a lot in business as well. People think they come across the same. They're the only one. You're not the only one this problem. Everyone has this problem. Even life. Everyone has the same life issues. And that's not a bad thing, but you can definitely make it better. Things may never become perfect, but where you are now, you're not happy. So do you want to become a happier person? Yeah.
And this is where the value's found, right? Within the gap that you've just, like, spoken about, as in, like, you're not happy. Why you're not happy? What would it be like if you actually felt like you did all those years ago, and they start telling you, and you can hear the excitement in their voice, and then the money doesn't become a problem. Then when you're doing a good sales job, when the problem is not remaining the same.
Yeah.
And you're willing to easily part way with £500 to do that. That's when you've done a really good sales job. If you're trying to, wrangle them over the money towards the end, there's probably something at the start that you haven't done right. But that's very inspirational for a lot of people listening. Like the one call close at £500, and it's just, you have to have those deep conversations.
Massively. I almost think as well, like sometimes it's you mentioned it, like you're forcing the money. I don't necessarily think you sometimes the long-term picture necessarily maybe is not worth that as well, that like the hassle that it brings
the best
you.
Clients
they're probably not exactly that. And I think, and I found that over time, like I said, you obviously at the start, if you are starting up and you're running a business, you need that money, right? And I understand that. I think when it comes to a point when you can become relaxed in what you're kind of offering and delivering, and it's not, you don't need that to feed, you don't need that to eat, you don't need that to pay the bills, you don't need that to do things or to go on a holiday, whatever you need. I think then you become not to become more genuine, but you're doing things purely out of the goodness of your heart to make them better. And I think they can intensify that a little bit sometimes, because you do get people who are a bit pushy and they need it. Whereas I feel that, in recent times, definitely for us personally as a business, everyone that we come through the door, we want to help. And it's like, we're not here just to take your money. Obviously the money's there because this has to grow and we're trying to go somewhere. But, you're paying something that you're going to get something back out of it as well. Like, it's not just taking your money for the sake of taking money.
And you say it's 90% your front end to back end conversion rate?
Yeah, now for 6 weeks, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think has attributed to it might be the fact that they're valuing it more through paying it, but there must be elements for your product and service that's contributed to 50% to 90%.
So I've spent, we've spent a lot of time on, actual just having members like weekly catch-ups as well. So in this whole thing, like you'll sit down with someone as well. Moved Kate, who works with me, she's gone into not just coaching, she's 50% coaching, 50% members relations. So she's got a whole new role. So she's, as I said to you, I've come out of the business itself from coaching this year and coming out of actually having to be in the facility. Kate's come into the members space where she does everything as well, which has been, I was saying, it's one of the hardest things is now I've made it where I don't make decisions. Like the fundamental top decisions that I make, that they can come to me. But like I said to you earlier as well, within small businesses, a mistake or a decision that someone makes that may not be the right move, doesn't necessarily be a wrong move, but may not be the right move, that's fine, because the next day we can change it. We can reverse it. Like, we have the ability to do that. We haven't got to go through to governing boards. We haven't got to do this. We can make those decisions. So that was one of the things. It was like the only way I can make my step forward and create to where my North Star is having somebody who's willing to make those mistakes, because Kate will make mistakes. But she has to back herself, and I want to give her the ability to back herself. And I've given her the power to do so.
And this is something we actually briefly touched on before recording. Like, to make a better product, there are some people that have to go through it and not have the optimal experience, because that's when you expose the gap of where things can be better, right? Like, the way to, the very first iteration of your product was probably terrible in comparison to what it is now, right? But it's through people going through it and then identifying, they're not being communicated with. Let's add in a check-in process where they have the option to speak to someone, or the onboarding process is non-existent. Let's have that so they actually start booking in sessions. It's all these things that you figure out through people's experience of it, frankly, not being good enough, right? But that's not a bad thing, and you shouldn't be deterred by that. You should look at the data and act upon it rather than be annoyed by it, right?
That's exactly it. I think it's like I said, you can make decisions quick. And it's make them. Don't let them drag on. If something's not right, doesn't sit right with you, that's got to be done straight away, because it can be. And same with those like processes and the onboarding and everything like that. I said, every time you get a new client that comes through the door, something new will happen and it will hit you, and you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. And it's like, and I think over time you add and you compound all of those things into this, and then you end up having a super product that basically is now. And I think, like I said to you, I said our 6 week process now to when we, like, there's obviously a reason why it's there. It's chalk and cheese. It's amazing. Like, the difference between it now and having somebody, like I said to you, we do now after our first session, you get a phone call that day. So that day you come in, Kate calls them. after session, she will call you in that evening, and you have you have a chat.
First session. Hey, how's the session? How was it? Are we booked in next week? Are we booked in the rest of this week? And that's it. You're done. You get checks in the next day to see how your body's recovered after. So you'll get a message. You get in your own personal message. Hey, how are you feeling?
How's the body feeling? We know obviously you haven't trained for a while, but relatable to them. So it's personalised. It's incentivized. So someone may have been a really good trainer, has done loads of training in the past, but they haven't trained for 10 years. And they think, I can still smash out 60 on the squats. I'm like, your body wouldn't know what's hit it. So that check-in is, we care, we listen, we understand, but we're going to get you back to where you were.
It's one, a nice touch point, but two, imagine someone hasn't trained in years or whatever at all, and they're really sore, and they're thinking, this isn't for me. Like, there's no price, there's no communication to tell them that that's actually quite normal. But actually sending a little communication saying, hey, we know after a first session you can be sore. They go, oh, okay, it's not just me. It's pretty much everyone. Right? This is a normal 100%. Thing. Because otherwise they might feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It might actually put them off. But there's all these things happening and all these thoughts that customers are having that most people are oblivious to, in terms of, like, a lot of times they won't tell you the feedback. And I imagine people doing your 28-day, maybe they went and blasted a session and they were smashed and they just didn't want to go back because they didn't have the support around it, essentially.
And that's exactly it. I think it's really, when sometimes you think you're fine during a session, but afterwards it then can break you. And I think you then have a negative, you're like, I don't want to feel like this. And then they're thinking, their instant thing is like, you repel and you step back. You're like, I can't do this. I've been hobbling at work all day and feeling horrendous. This guy on the phone said I'm going to feel great. And it's like, you're getting this, like, so you have this polar effect, because the reality is, if you had trained previously, and but a lot of people hadn't done weight training. A lot of people are new to weight training, and the effect on your muscles is completely different to playing football or hockey or netball, whatever it may have been. That's playing sport. All right, fine. You do get some soreness and aches and stuff. It ain't the same that you get from your muscles in soreness and DOMs. So I said, the guidance and the explanations to everything just has to be there, so that there's every step they don't feel lost. And I think that's been our real change. And like I said, you actually, when you mentioned earlier saying what was one of the best things about having an employee and bringing them in, I would say that having someone dedicated to the members and to the 6-week sign up, or the whatever you decide to do, I would say is invaluable. I think it's the best thing that I've done personally in a business. And it's taken that, it's allowed so the coaches still have their main handful of like members, but the overarching view of everything is done by that one person.
So one person has got like a responsibility for them, even though they might be looked after by other members.
Correct. So the coaches will have their check-in. They will do their with their members, and they'll go through them end of the week with in the team of any issues, any injuries, any absences. But then the overall decision making within members, payments, the laser payments, whether pausing, whether issues are going on, one person does all that, sees it, is the go-to person. So for me, it was like, and that's. Those decisions I don't really see. They're out of my control now. So whatever they want to do, they'll do. I can obviously go and look and see, and I'll be in the meetings and stuff. But the reality is, it's not for me to get involved in. I've just step away from that, and that's for, like you said, they've got to make the mistakes. And if there is something drastic that's been made, then I can step in. But for me, it was that. I think that's what's really hit home. And with that, we've made little flows in the CRM system as well now that kind of like just automatically carries them through the 6 weeks. And then the contact is on week 4. We basically prime them for the sell. So they've still got 2 weeks to go. We get them in on the week 4. They get booked in so they have again, with all the stuff they've had in all the other weeks, all the extra nutritional stuff they've had, all the advice they've had, everything that, like, videos of them, how to run through the 6 weeks, they all get through that. Week 4, we then, when obviously the 28 days would have ended at that point. All right. We're then now priming them for what they've achieved so far, what's their long term. And then we're already setting them a vision. We're kind of prepping them where they're going to go to. So we're putting their mind not in the right now. We're putting it, this is where you can go. This is what you can do. Yeah. Right now they're probably not feeling much. 4 weeks you may go, I feel like I've got a bit of energy back. You may get it. But the reality is, it's setting that long-term vision, but long enough to keep them here for a period of time, but not too long where it goes, smart, because everyone's got the same long-term goal, right? It's, can I be fit and healthy for as long as possible? So when my kids have kids, I can be that grandparent that can run around and look after them, take them on holiday and do things. If I said that to you, you're going to go, well, that's 40 years ago. I'll worry about that in 20 years. But the reality is you need all those micro goals to get them from there. So it's like we set out those things being like, look what you've done in 4 weeks. This is amazing. In the end of the 2 weeks, we're going to see, I know we're going to see weight loss. I know we're going to see muscle gain. I just know that. You've followed your nutrition. You've been doing all this. You've been tracking all of these. Look at your movements. Your steps are better. This is amazing. So actually, without even realizing, you're moving more, which again, for longevity of life is amazing. And then it's that case of being like, now, what have you got coming up? What's actually going to push you for this next period of time? There's no point me banging on about them being a grandparent. Everyone wants that. And you see all the time. It's like, so then we kind of picture them and they go, and they'll put doubt in their mind about, I can't do that stuff. But why can't you do it? This is how we can create you. This is the package that we're going to build you going forward. And if you really want to do it, then we can go 5 times a week. You can always upsell. And then we're there to sell them something that they'd never thought possible. You've nailed 3 times a week and you are now thinking that you can't get here. Well, why can't you get there? We've got bolt-ons. You can do them. Or even Hyrox. We can put that in. We have Hyrox on a Tuesday and Saturday. We can add these in. So these 2 things, again, from one conversation where I said to you, where we'd normally have to close them on 4 weeks, we've now got a situation where we can set them a long-term goal, which gives us consistent revenue for 6 months minimum. And then we can add and bolt on sell more things, so we can upsell what we are already doing. So if we're doing our job right, everyone will attend their 18 sessions in 6 weeks. Okay, because that's the minimum you have to come. We know that if they come 3 times a week over the 6 weeks, they follow their nutrition, they follow their guidance, they move a bit more, they're going to get better. Right? That's fact. That's from nothing, from zero base, they're going to get better. So we know that we're going to see some results on the paper. They're going to be happy. They're going to feel better. Therefore, they should stick. And if we can, the only thing we can't do is they haven't got the goal. We found the goal was an issue. It was like, because people don't want to train for the sake of training. It's like, I'm going to train. Just going to train. So we were like, how can we set? Everyone says about goals. It's like, how could we get them to buy in again? They're bought in initially because they're unhappy. Something's not right in their life. So they bought in the first time. But they've got to rebuy in. They've bought a one-off package. So our thing was like, we sat down and like, what are the things that we can drag in and make them like, because you need something that's close but not too close.
It all comes full circle. At the start of this podcast, we spoke about, you had the vision from the start of where you wanted the business to be, and that set the intention. And then kind of come towards the end as we kind of close out, it's setting the vision for the clients. And that sounds like the main difference, actually, of they come in this 6 weeks, they have a deeper level of conversation, which increases the value of what you do. And then when they start to see results, we start to look at that long-term vision. And from that, they're more like invested into that journey rather than just, do you want to do some fitness? It's much deeper and it's much more meaningful, which I think is an incredibly impactful lesson for everyone to hear. That's kind of my takeaway from everything you've just said there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's spot on. And it is just that, I think sometimes people neglect that a little bit. And then the rest is, goes back to that community. Once they've bought into that vision, then they buy into other things. And that goes back to those members that we've now got that one's getting married, one's maid of honor, and you build that for life, right? So I would say that's what's definitely worked for us.
And there's so many elements of this whole discussion of how you've been able to step out of the business. So starting from the team that have been instilled with your ethos there, the community and the connections that are created, meaning that if a team member were to leave, it's the community that holds things together, not the actual people there. You then got the marketing that's taken care of. You've got your sales process that's been systematized from the CRM, but to also to having the help and also your own skill set that's been taught there as well. And then also your package and your front end offer and how that's been delivered to be able to get people in at a higher price there. And ultimately, I'm sure there's some other things there as well, but those core elements have massively helped your business there. And I think you've been with us for about 3 years, maybe longer.
3 years.
Yeah, so it's been amazing to play our part in helping your kind of business journey so far, and looking forward to helping you go to the next step. And thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for being a client, and it's been great having you down.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Amazing.
Happy to be a client.